So we have the solar panels up, and they haven't been working for 5 days. So I was on customer support on the phone for 10 hours trying to figure out why the panels weren't producing. So I was really worried about being my problem because nobody could figure it out. They go, well, we can't figure it out. So I got a hold of somebody else, actually the people who sold me this stuff. He had producing power in 5 minutes. But one of the issues is that in fact, we started putting power back into the grid. We turned it on and we started putting power back into the grid. So we don't want to do that, by the way, but it's not reading correctly. So this is the inverter and this reads everything. But you can see right now, this is the solar panels. So you can see there's no production. This is the grid, and you can see that we're bringing in 5.5 kilowatts right now from the grid, and there's 5.39 going to the loads. So the air conditioning and whatever's on right now. And then these are to the batteries. And there's just a little bit here just to float the batteries. So we have it working, but it's not reading correctly here. So I've got to change this wiring. This is the feed coming from the solar panels. So we're going to pull it out of the main service panel and put it into the inverter right there. Right now, what I'm working on right now is I'm installing these ammeters. These are the individual wires coming down from the arrays on the solar panel. Each one of these sets of wires is 220 volts. I've got it turned off right now. I'm about to wire these ammeters in so we can see what is each individual meter showing. Okay, put that right there. I just made this little plywood panel here to hold these. It ain't a thing of beauty, but it works. I'm the only one that looks at it. And all these wires do is feed the power for the meter. So again, these wires are coming from the roof. They come through the attic, down by the old panel, and they're wired here. They go into these individual they're two pole 15 amp breakers. So in a panel, normally the wires the power comes in here and goes out here. But because we're using this as a feed panel, the power comes in here and out here. So each of the arrays, which is between 9 and 11 panels, they combine on the roof, they come down one wire, they come into these breakers. These breakers then feed the panel behind it, and it comes up and feeds this 100 amp breaker. 2-pole breaker, and these two wires right here, each of them is 120 volts. Together they're 220, and they come around and they come into this inverter panel. The inverter panel decides whether or not what feeds the main house panel. So that's how this is set up to work. So the sun's coming up. It's about 8:30 in the morning. This is mid-September. So the sun is actually used to be light here at 6:15. Now it's not light till 7:15 or 7:30, and the sun starts producing power now, a limited amount. I'm actually surprised at how much power we produce even on a cloudy day. I didn't think they produced any on a cloudy day, but in reality it produces quite a bit. That's an inductive ring. This simply goes around the wire, like there's one there. Here's the other 3 on here. The wire feeds through there, and as the AC goes through there, as a AC current goes like this, 60 hertz down, 60 hertz up. As it goes through there, it induces a field into this, which feeds, and that's what feeds these meters, and these meters read that field. So electricity is actually pretty fascinating because it's something you can't see, but you can measure. And electricity has everything to do with everything we do. You know, you use electricity all day long, and yet most people never think about it, where it comes from, how it's produced, how it's transferred, and what would happen if you didn't have it. Because we've lived on boats and RVs where we relied on batteries and other methods of solar production or energy production. We know what it's like if you don't have it, and I also am very familiar with what it's like to have to worry about every power that you use, every light bulb, everything you turn on, because if you used up all your power, it wasn't unlimited. You couldn't just go out and get more. So your refrigerator wouldn't work, your food would rot. You know, your fans wouldn't work, your navigation equipment wouldn't work. So all that stuff makes a big difference. And people today don't understand that. They don't get it, that there's not unlimited power. Especially these people who think that green power is everything. It's not. If you have no wind, and you rely on solar power, you have no power. And the great example of that is Texas. Was it last winter or winter before, when they had all those storms and froze those huge turbines, the solar wind turbines, and that meant that there was no more power, and people in Texas froze. Houses froze, and pipes froze because they had no power. The utilities had no power. So for people who think that power is unlimited, it's not. And look at California today. California has, you know, they've gone all this green, they say, and what's happened is that it doesn't produce enough power. Especially Californians, they use a lot of air conditioner, they use a lot of irrigation stuff, they use a lot of power, and they don't have it. So I think it's funny as heck that they've got Tesla battery cars, and the governor of California is telling people, don't charge your car that he told you to buy because it uses too much power. You know, it uses more oil to charge the car than it would for gas to run the car. Wait till these people have to go buy batteries and they see how much batteries are. It's gonna be scary. They're crazy. It's crazy. People listen to the wrong people a lot of times. Like people who are just feeding them a line for their own personal interests. Got nothing to do with reality. Now on an individual basis, yeah, like we can use solar and try to limit the amount of power. But last night we went on batteries, and the batteries didn't last all night. These 4 huge batteries didn't last all night, and it was a cool night. We didn't even use the air conditioner. So that's what I'm trying to work on right now and trying to figure out. That's why these meters are here, to try to figure out, okay, well, what is it that we can do to manage the use of our power so that we're not dependent on the grid for power in case something happens. I may be crazy, but something may happen. All indications are something's gonna happen. Isn't it crazy I can do all this work and still yak at the same time? All right, look at that, isn't that pretty? Got yellow, green, red, yellow, green. All right, put that back on, and we turn power on to the meters and they come on. And boom. So this is total. So right now the panels are producing 4 amps. And you can see I've got 3 arrays. I should have 4. Why don't I have 4? So this 4th array, let's see, what are we not feeding here? 1, 2, 3. So something's not hooked up here. What's not hooked up? This one right here is not hooked up. So we'll put this one right here. There goes that one. So there we go. Now we're feeding. Now we've got all 5 on there. Panel cover back on. Isn't that pretty? Now it gives me information. Information's good because I can see at a glance now what arrays are doing what. You can see these 2 arrays are less than an amp, so they're in the shade. These have a little bit more, but the sun's just coming up, so we'll see how this does. Now it's showing 1.53 in, 1.51. So and then the 0.11's going to the batteries, which are still at 48%. Oh, we're charging the batteries, and then as the solar kicks in. So we are making progress. It is working. Everything is working. I know I left it where it wasn't, and we're still working on the main panel. So we're adding in circuits for the basement, which we have been finishing. So we'll talk about that in another video. We are producing enough power on the panels, although it doesn't show it on here because we're using micro inverters, but we're producing enough power to put 3.63 kilowatts into the batteries, 1.6 kilowatts into the load, which is the house. 0.2, actually it just cut off, right? Now it's coming back, so it's flipping back and forth. So if we do this, if we take the calculator, 3.67 times, the batteries are charging at about 56 volts. That means that can't be 205 amps, is that right? So this is an ammeter, and it's around one of the battery cables. So it's charging 70 amps right now. So let's figure it the other way. So amps times volts equals power. So we got power of 3.68. So 3.68, that's 3,680, right? 3,680 divided by 66. So it's going at 56 volts. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I don't know how I figured that out. So 56 volts, now it's up to 67, and that's charging the batteries. And that's what these lights are showing, that the battery, these 4 batteries are charging. We ran on the batteries all night long. We didn't use the power at all, hardly at all last night. And these are little ammeters I put in. So right now we're doing 26 amps, 27 amps. So 27 amps at 220 volts. So we're putting in almost 6 kilowatts of power. And I can check that just out of curiosity by going to an app that I have on my phone that's supposed to show me. Let's see what power flow. Yep. What did I say? 6.
6.
I said 6. They're telling me it's 5,400, but this is about 5 minutes behind. So it's saying it's going 3,600, 3.6 kilowatts into the batteries. This is microinverters. That's what MI stands for. So it doesn't show the solar panels because we're using microinverters. I could explain it, but that's why. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
So gives me power today, power for the month, power for the year.
Oh, that's cool.
Power, total power.
Yeah.
Plus it tells me alarms and everything else right on here. So we left it with it not working. It's working. Not only is it working, it's working much better than much more than I thought it would, because we have still got 20% of our panels we haven't put up yet. 20, so only 80% of the panels I bought are up. So we really don't, even if we had more power, it's the batteries right now that we need. We need another battery. Because to make it through the night, we need another battery.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have air conditioning on last night, I don't think. It may have kicked on once or twice because we didn't have the windows open. But we're going to need to put another battery in. But I don't think we're going to need to put in those other 10 panels. I think that these batteries, with one more battery, would do it. Very, very pleased with what's going on. That 70 amps going to the batteries. That's awesome. So it can take up to 120. So, but that's fine because we're not feeding any back to the grid. And so everything's going to the load and to the batteries, and that's exactly what I want. I mean, there's a little bit going. It flips back and forth for some reason. So, pretty cool. So we're good with the installation so far. You know, we're still working on the panel. Because now we're bringing in all the wires from the basement. So one of our next videos will be a walk around in the basement, and we'll show you what's going on with the tile guy coming. With the drywall guy, if I can ever get a hold of him. Well, I'm not doing all that stuff. It's all ready to go. I've got all the parts and everything except for the drywall. I got to go get the tile parts. But so we left you. We got a lot of stuff hanging, don't we?
Yeah.
And we don't like stuff hanging. So we talked about the solar panels and how they're working now, and we're putting out. Sometimes we've gotten up to 45 amps during the day. Of course, now the sun is going more southerly. So we're getting more into these trees. It's funny, just in a month, it used to come right here. So I don't know how far down it's gonna go, but so we're getting less sun. See how much shades right here. So all these panels right here are shaded, but still, it's working. The other thing we had left out hanging was working on the excavator. So one of the projects that we were working on is building a natural pool. I have a bigger bucket that I wanted to put on. So I went to put the bucket on, and I realized that one of the things that had been bothering me, but it was the slop in this. It was when you moved it around with the machine, it would clang, 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 move. No matter, you couldn't keep grease in it, and that's bad because it wears out these pins and it wears out these bushings that are inside of here and inside of here. So I took it all apart and realized that a couple of things were. These arms right here had gotten bent, and they're full inch thick steel, solid steel. But the kind of steel they are, you can't just heat them up and bend them back because they get brittle and they'll break. At least that's what I was told. So I had to buy new with these. I had to order those, and then put all this back together with shims. And we use shims all in here. And of course, I did it all day yesterday. I had so much grease on me that I didn't film it. But it's all done. It's all back together. It's working well. We're looking forward to trying to get this thing running. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a lot bigger bucket than what was on there. The bucket's sitting right over there. So the next thing you do is we're going to actually put more steel right across here, right across the teeth. We're going to make a plate that slides up on there so I can scrape smooth. So when I do the bottom of the natural swimming pool, I get it really nice and smooth. So that's so this is another project that's sort of done, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Next big project is some more maintenance on here. Things like brackets broken up there. Got to change out the hydraulic fluid. 40 gallons of hydraulic fluid.
Sheesh.
Yeah, and hydraulic fluid is ridiculously expensive right now, but I have to put this on hold because we're getting
House renovations
done. So, but yeah, cool.